on behalf of all Final Destination fans, thank you. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Always happy to see you guys here, and welcome back to my review series of Final Destination with Final Destination 5. With only one more to go in Final Destination Bloodlines, a ranking video will follow, so watch out for that as well. And if you've not caught him yet, I have the links of my first 4 film reviews in the description down below, so check those out when you can. So released in 2011, Final Destination 5 follows a group of people on their way to a business retreat to where one of them has a premonition of the bridge that they are on collapsing and everybody dies. They manage to get off the bridge in time, only to learn that death has other plans for them and that it comes back for them one by one, killing them in bizarre ways. So after the complete and utter disaster that was the Final Destination, I thought this series was dead. But like with any good premonition of impending death, somebody saw fit to yank this out of death's grip and give it a second chance, and I couldn't be more happier. Things deserve a second chance. Plus it also helped that the last one made bukus of money. It broke all sorts of box office records. And like with any death's design, please try to figure that one out, because for the life of me, I can't. But was Final Destination 5 any better? Did it triumph overall? Or did it yet again fall flat on its face? Starting off the positives, I like that they go back to basics here. After the disastrous train wreck that last one was, it seems like they learned their lesson here, to where they basically go back to form here. They made this one kind of feel like how those earlier films was, like especially how the first 3 films was, well mainly 1 and 3, to where you have the Final Destination, which was basically this cheese schlock fest with no other reason to exist other than shoving that nonsense bullshit 3D down our throats to the point of insanity, and they just cake it on. I felt like here they really learned their lesson. Even though this one's still 3D, they don't cake it on as much here, and it's not as in your face, and it's not as schlocky as that last one was. Here it's toned down just a little bit more. It's not as egregious, it's not as rough. The 3D aspect wasn't overdone, it wasn't overcooked as much as that last one. I'm still personally not a fan of 3D horror, but at least this one didn't make me hate it as much or despise it as much. It felt more contained, it felt more restrained, it didn't feel lame. I really did appreciate that. Because the film had a much more stable and controlled tone, I felt as though the deaths here were a little bit more believable, a little bit more tolerable, to where you had wacky and uncontrollably out of this world deaths in that last one, to where in this it's more realistic. Nothing in these movies will actually happen in real life. Accidents do happen. Yes, they go overboard. You gotta suspend your belief just a little bit, but that last one just pushed the boundaries. Here, it felt like it was more contained, it was more stable, and it just felt more believable. And I was able to enjoy the brutality of it all because of that, because it wasn't as cheesy, it wasn't as funny, because that's how most of the last film came off to me, was just plain silly. Here, it was the complete opposite. There's one scene that stuck out to me the most, which was the laser eye surgery scene. Which it wasn't technically a death, but a death did follow. But it does stick with me the most, where this woman has this eye appointment to get her eyes worked on. And she's laying down on this table with the laser pointing right at her eyeball. She's holding on tight to that teddy bear because she's so nervous. Who wouldn't be? I would be too. And then everything just starts going haywire. And the laser just starts going off in her eye and starts cutting into her eye. She manages to break free, but then she trips and falls out the window. Again, that's just how grueling and how deceptive that this villain, this death, supernatural force is. But I thought that stuck out to me the most. It just seemed here that they improved tenfold and that they learned from their mistake from that last one, and I couldn't be more grateful. I just don't know if I would have been able to handle another one like the last one. That would have pushed me over the edge to the brink of insanity. glad that they went the tone that they did for 5. So I got to talk about the bridge collapse scene, the thing that gets this movie started. As I mentioned plenty of times, for those of you who did not watch my review series of this up to this point, there's always that one scene in each of these films that kickstarts the film off, that kickstarts what kind of film it's going to be. And here we get a bridge collapse scene, to where it's very chaotic, it's very egregious, and it's pretty brutal with some of the things that goes on. You're bunched in this situation to where you're on this bridge, and the whole thing just collapsed with wires snapping and hot oil falling onto people and people getting cut in half, and it's everything that a Final Destination movie is supposed to have, and it's what you expect in a Final Destination film. And I thought they did that really well here. It was very entertaining. It was very edge of your seat, maybe not as much as some of the others in this, but still, it was very edge of your seat, and it was very satisfying, and it was very entertaining. Plus, I just liked the consistency of it. Like, that's one thing that's never changed, no matter how sucky some of these movies has gotten. That's one thing that's always stayed consistent, and I really do enjoy those aspects of these. Like with the other films, I liked how brutal it was, and just that edge of your seat feel, and it was fun. And it just definitely set the tone. Like with the other films, it definitely set the tone. And you have these different scenarios to where you try to beat death. There's really nothing significant on this part, which is why I never really mentioned it. I should have mentioned it in the second film, because that was the only significant one out there so far. They didn't really touch on this in a unique way in the first, third, and fourth film. But you have the whole thing in the second film to where they set up to where only new life can defeat death, to where this woman has this child in the second film, and that just pretty much triumphed over what death had planned. I know I didn't mention that, for those of you who actually kept up with this film review series. I know I didn't mention that, but I should have. But I'm mentioning it now. I thought that was a really genius, out of the many things they did right in that film. I thought that was a very genius way of doing things and how they handled things. Here, you have a scenario to where it's kill or be killed. To where the only way to defeat death in this one is if you kill somebody, you get their years that you've took from them. And whatever years they have left, you get. And I thought that was pretty clever. That was pretty smart. It was just another good way to keep it fresh. I enjoyed that aspect. I enjoyed that they came up with something fresh and something new, and that was pretty satisfying. Again, it just shows you how much you have to stay ahead of this thing, and how much will you have to live in order to do all these sorts of things. Taking a life over your own and getting the time that they have left for you to defeat death. I thought that was pretty clever, especially in the writing department. Moving on to my mixed, and as much as I like the guy, you do get Tony Todd back in this after him being absent in 3 and 4. You do get to see him again back for 5, and he does have more screen time. I really did enjoy that they gave him more screen time and more to work with instead of just a little 3 to 5 minute cameo, which was fine for those first 2 films. I liked how they gave him more screen time in Final Destination 5. I really did enjoy that. But what I didn't quite get is why they didn't really expand on his character. You have more scenes with him, but I felt like that he was kind of a wasted potential. Now, he is the one that brings up the whole kill or be killed scenario, and he is the one that helps these people out, as he did with the first 2, even though those were much shorter cameos. I just wish they would have done a little bit more with his character. Gave his character more of a bigger reason, especially returning after being absent for 3 and 4. I wish they would have gave his character a little bit more of a narrative than just, no, you do this, otherwise you'll survive. He's like the crazy Ralph from Friday the 13th of this series. So that's basically who he is. He's like the old man at the gas station that warns people of impending death, that warns travelers not to do this, you got to do that. I just wish they would have gave him more to his character in Final Destination 5. As much as I enjoyed seeing more of him and more screen time, because he's awesome, I just wish they would have done more. I just wish they would have gave his character a little bit more of a narrative than what they did. Especially after being absent for 2 films and for a comeback for a major horror alumni icon. For those of you who have not seen this entry, for those of you starting the series off from scratch, I'm going to get into a little bit of a spoiler territory here, so if you do not want to know anything about what I'm getting ready to say, I'm going to put a spoiler subtitle right up here, so just skip through the end if you don't want to know nothing about this, and when it's all over, that will disappear, and I'll even let you know when it's going to disappear. So you've been warned. But this whole notion of them making this a prequel set a few months before the events of the first film, thought was an okay touch. When I first went and seen this, when I first watched this, I was surprised. It did get me going just a little bit, but I didn't really care all that much in the grand scheme of things. I mean, yes, you see the supposed survivors of this entry go onto that plane, and it's the same one that Devon Sawa and Kerr Smith and all of them goes on at the beginning of that first film. And you see them fighting and getting kicked off from the other side of that plane. Like I said, when I first saw that, I was like shocked. It did its job with at least a little bit of that twist ending, I guess you could say. Did I really care about that? I don't think I did. I don't think we really needed that. I don't think we really needed to know that the notion of it being a prequel. It's just something that I didn't really care about in the grand scheme of things. I mean, yeah, you see them get kicked off, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's right, that's what happened. But did we really need that? I don't think we did. I don't really think we did. Okay, you're safe. Now on to the negatives. The only thing that I really have a major problem with, and I felt like the stench of the Final Destination kind of seeped into this, in this case, but the characters. Wasn't really enjoying them. Yet again, I wasn't really digging them. Like with that last film, they just sort of felt stale and just generic. Even our main lead in Sam, played by Nicholas D. Augusto, if I'm not pronouncing that name right, I apologize. The guy that has the premonition in this, I just don't feel like he gave me that much. Now, it might have not been as bad as Bobby Campo from the last film, but I just felt like that they could have done a little bit more to this character. Like with that last film, I just didn't really feel that much. He didn't really give me that much to work with. There wasn't that much emotion there. He did the best he could. Again, this is kind of a lighter negative compared to Bobby Campo from that last film. I still wish that they would have done more with him. I still wish they would have gave him a little bit more to do and just a little bit more of an emotional tie. And just like with that last film, I just didn't really feel that here. I didn't really get that much from him in this, which is what you're supposed to have in your protagonist. Like with Bobby Campo, Nicholas didn't really do that much to improve things here, which was kind of a shame. But despite that, this one was a little bit of an improvement over that last one. Now, it wasn't something that blew it out of the park for me, but it was still a step up and a happy accident. Final Destination 5, what was your thoughts on this? Were you a fan of this one? Did this triumph over that last one? Did you think this one was 10 times better than that last one? For those of you who thought that last one sucked, did this one redeem your faith in this series? Or was this just a complete bust? Was this not for you? Was this just as bad as that last one? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, as always, for clicking here and watching this. I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Make sure you click that bell icon and set it to all so you don't miss a thing if you like what you see. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.